Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today. My name is Rami Yunus, as you can see up on the board. Here to talk to you about HCL AppScan and about continuous security. And continuous security, I'm sure you may have heard this. We've all heard CI/CD. Many people aren't really talking about continuous security. So we're going to talk to you guys a bit about what we believe continuous security really means. We'll start off with the agenda, and firstly, I'll introduce us, who we are as an organization, why we're HCL Software, and who AppScan is. Then talk a bit about some background about security and where what we understand about security when it comes to application development, and then look at continuous security, and then show you guys an amazing demo of one of our solutions. So I've kind of broken it up today and tomorrow as well. So tomorrow will be more of a continuation from today, kind of wrapping it all up. And then we're also going to be showing you a really cool demo tomorrow of the bigger AppScan suite. So who are we? We represent HCL Software. HCL Software is an independent business unit to where you guys may already know the bigger brand, HCL Services or Technologies. HCL Software actually develops and engineers automation, DevOps, and solutions in so many different categories. I look after the secure DevOps portfolio, which is where the application security product AppScan falls under. So I thought we'd start off with maybe giving a bit of context and looking at kind of the history of application development. And when you kind of start from the early 1960s, when application development was really monolithic, right? It was these big, heavy, COBOL mainframe applications. And then we kind of move out of that monolithic architecture, and we move into more of that prototyping phase. And then we saw in the 90s, we started to do more of the waterfall methodology when it came to project execution. That kind of took up the stage and was really, really popular at the time. But there was a few problems with that. We saw teams that were involved in the development and applications kind of were very disjointed and separated, caused a lot of problems in the past. And applications weren't really tested properly, and they came out really buggy, and they had a lot of problems. Deployment was slow and very time-consuming. We then moved into that agile development phase, which we all hear agile, we all hear these great buzzwords, right? Which solved a few issues. It brought dev and test teams really together, helping really bring out faster software. But the operations guys weren't still in the same room, which is when the term was coined DevOps, and that's where we moved into 2008 over here. But there were still problems because security was never spoken about. And it's quite interesting when you look at the history of application development, really security only started to be mentioned when it came to about 2017 with DevSecOps. And then in 2018, we coined the term continuous security, which we're going to start and exploring within this presentation. So I put this up, and I really like word trackers. I think they're great just to give you a bit of a snapshot in history. When you look at the word tracker in 2016, I kind of just ran through that whole history of application development. But in 2016, you see the words that really were coined in the 70s and 80s are still the most prominent and the biggest here on the word tracker. And you see agile, even though agile's been around for years now, it's still quite small in the corner there. But we don't see security here. When we move to 2022, we still see some of these big words, prototyping, software, right? Agile is still in that same space. Testing's a bit bigger. Security is there in a small way, but it's still there, which is a good thing. But we're starting to see, and as we know, right, security is becoming more and more important. But why is that so? Well, we live in an age right now where our applications are more connected than ever. They're accessed through multiple networks, through the cloud, through various types of ways, and are presented with much more vulnerabilities, much more security threats. So security is becoming more and more important. But I mentioned at the start, we talk so much about CI/CD. We talk about automating development. We want to move faster. We want to make better apps. But why aren't we doing that with security? Where's the automation when it comes to security? Where's that building that governance and that audit? And that leads me into my next slide. I don't know why it does that. So what is continuous security? Well, we've put it into 3 different phases. You've got your construct phase, where you build security by design, right? You build secure automation. You try and do, a lot of organizations are doing it, but how much real automation is there actually in current application development? You then move into the intensify phase, and this is where a lot of people kind of fall short, right? It's such an important piece when it comes to education and it comes to your governance phase as well, right? Where you really want to drive positive change by continuously improving, by building a security culture practice. And then finally, the last phase, the assure phase, where we ensure our controls are in place, right? Where we want to make sure our security audit, our metrics and reporting, we want to be able to have that data there so we can identify ways that we can continuously improve. So when we're looking at securing the software life cycle, let's put it into a pretty picture. Now, we look at this as kind of a standard development life cycle, probably a bit more than what traditionally would be, but how can we apply security into every single one of those phases? And as we can see, as we go through, from traditionally security teams, or the way security is done at the moment, is we'll start after the application has been built. After everything is done, we're going to start doing some penetration testing. But that presents so many vulnerabilities. We've got so many problems now that we have to go back to the early development phase and we've got to fix. And that's costly and takes a lot of time. When we look at testing, recently there's been the new interactive security scans, interactive analysis that allows you to really test out your applications. When we look at packaging and repo, we see infrastructure as code becoming more prominent, container scanning for security. And as we kind of go through, we can see that security has started to become a big part in every single stage of the development lifecycle. And the key here is not every organization you see would be doing testing throughout. But the main important thing is when we're looking at continuous security, it's about creating that feedback loop. So it's not about just doing security in every phase, but it's about how can we continuously improve. Similar to our CI/CD, where we have those automated automated pipelines, right, in all the different phases. How can we apply that to security? And that's something that we're going to save in for tomorrow after we wrap it all up. So how do we apply in every security phase? Well, introducing HCL AppScan. I want to ask a question to everyone here. Who here has heard of AppScan before I started talking about it today? A few people? All right, that's great. AppScan, and it's kind of part of a big portfolio. As you can see, we're hybrid cloud, so we offer a cloud option, on-premise option, and we even have a community edition, so truly covering every single phase of the development lifecycle, from your early source code scanning to your DAST analysis and your IAST. And where do we start? And where we believe you should start is in the early phase when it comes to your IDE scanning, right? When you're writing your code early on. And so I'm going to hand over now to Sunil, who's going to talk you through and demonstrate for you the IDE security when it comes to using HCL Code Suite. Over to you, Sunil.
Hello everyone, I'm Sunil Gupta. So I work as a technical application security advisor, and today I'll just walk you through a little bit on what we have to present from the application security AppScan standpoint. So Rami did come across all these phases, and he touched upon how we can bring in security. the idea is to bring the security left. We know like there is security happening in bits and pieces. Some organization does just threat modeling to just see where the securities might be. Some does that they bring in the red team and before the pre-prod and say like, okay, yep, this is where we are. Let's identify all those things that could go wrong and thrash it out. But again, the point is like, yeah, even if we get the list of vulnerabilities identified, we do not get enough time to get that fixed because business unit says no, big no for the delays in the go live date. So that's where we think, yeah, it's a good idea, and then we can do the shift left of the security. So as we touched upon, if you see here, we can definitely bring the security while we start to do the coding itself. And that's what we'll see, like what we have from AppScan perspective and how we can help on that front. So let me switch my screen and walk you through a bit on the code sweep. So can we have to move? Okay. There you go. Okay. Cool. Oh, okay. I don't see it here, which is interesting. Okay. So HCL code sweep is a like kind of a code checker which gets installed into your IDE, and that can, as you write the code, we can do the kind of a check, identify the vulnerabilities if there are any, and then list it out down there. So this is like in the marketplace, we have for almost all the IDEs there where we can go ahead and get this installation done. If you look at the language supported, we almost cover all the languages that we have. If there are any that you guys are using and it's not listed down there, please let us know in our feedback. We'll try and incorporate that. But yeah, it's available in almost all the IDEs. So this is just as an example for Visual Studio. We do have in the Intel JE as well. And we also have things in GitHub. So this is again a placeholder where we can get this done. So when you do any kind of a pull request or a push request, this will kicks in. So this goes as part of your workflow. And it's very easy to set up. Just you need to generate the GitHub token and AppScan. You will require an AppScan token here as well, because that needs an kind of an integration between the ASOC, which is a ASOC AppScan on cloud, with the GitHub. Once the thing is established, the integration is established, we can, if you look at this, we have like what kind of thing that we want to do, whether it's on the checkout, pull request, or push request, we can do that, and then it will, we will see that like how it works in action. So idea is like when you're doing the coding itself, we wanted to scan the code and list out all the identified vulnerabilities that could be potential in the file that you're writing the code for. So let me bring up my IDE. It's very hard to. Rami, need your help? Just bring this up. Now, the other one, Intel J. Okay, so here I am. It's very hard to turn on this side and get things done, but so this is my Intel JE where we have already built the integration done. And while we write the code here, if you have the integration already built, we'll see this code sweep thing. and AppScan integration already available. It's available in the settings and in the plugins. So we have this integration already, so let's not go here, but idea is like the moment when we write the code and do some kind of in setting, so let me make some change here. I don't think it's no. Is it any better? No? Is it like hard to see? If you can, you guys can come. Yeah, just come in front, probably that will help. Scaling to the techie problem, typical one. Okay.
We open up these settings. Is that actually going to?
No.
Bring that up to the editor settings.
No.
You try Control Shift Plus. Alt Shift Plus.
No, so guys, so we can have another session, probably one-to-one, if
This
that
is
helps.
recorded, guys, so you can probably look at it on a better screen after.
Right. So the moment we saved it, this site gets refreshed, right? And it looks at all the things probably where it thinks there is an issue. Like if you look at this one, says like, okay, there is a cross-site scripting identified, and that's on the line number 93. And if you click on this, probably, here it says like what it is and what is the cause of it, why it thinks so, what could be the code, I mean as in sample, where exactly that could be, what could be the fixed recommendations that we can implement, and why things like it could be in potential issues. But this is definitely, once it identifies, it says at the bottom of it, it does not mean that, okay, we can definitely fix it, but it does not necessarily mean that, okay, it will bug you and not let you proceed for that. But all it does is like, this is what it is, how you can fix it, this is the example that we think, and this is how we have identified, right? And if you make the changes on any of the other files, so it will look only for that file, not for the whole code base. So it does only for that file where you are making the changes, and look for the vulnerabilities in that file itself, not the other ones. But if you have already integration built with our AppScan, now if you look at this, this is the like SaaS application that's getting scanned. So for this one, if you have already scanned in your AppScan on cloud or the integration when it's built, probably this is the old one, okay. It will pull up all the results that you might have in the tool itself and bring it onto your IDE. So we as a developer can look at like what could be the potential issues that can go wrong when it goes to the next phase of the STLC. And we bring this up here in the IDE for the developer to take and reference, make the decision whether they want to get this fixed or mark it as a false positive or noise or whatsoever it is. So this actually helps us, and that's why we, if I go back to that presentation, bring this presentation. Is it with this laptop or? There you go. So if I go back to this one, like what we are trying to do here is like filter out as many as vulnerabilities that we can on this development phase. That's the whole idea of bringing this IDE, code scanner, and code sweep into the IDE. So definitely we can do more than that. So while the development is happening, developer makes some changes and he pushes into GitHub for any of the configuration management tool. It could be Bitbucket, it could be any other thing. There again, we can kickstart that kind of in scan. So if a reviewer is trying to review the code and make some decisions like, is it good enough to go ahead and proceed with the other features that might be required, this is again an opportunity for people to build in the security within the STLC pipeline. So whole idea is bring the security to the left as far as possible so that we can start catching the vulnerabilities, as many as possible before we hand it over to the red team or the penetration testing guys or a dedicated security guys. So at the end of the day, we as a developer has to fix those identified issues. So why not to do it early rather than we with us time pressure, like, okay, we have to get this deployment done in the production in next hour or next day. So that's the whole idea of bringing this code sweep. I know, like, it was, I could have shown a little more on this one, but right, so yeah, one more feature is here, if you look at this one is on a fixed group. So this also gives you like based on the fixed group, so if all the identified vulnerabilities it's been grouped together and say like, okay, for this one, these are the things that has been identified. I think the connectivity is broken. Probably we'll have to go back and build this connectivity. But the whole idea is, yep, so we can have this code sweep done right in the development phase. So any questions on code sweep before I hand it over back to Rami? Right, so AppScan has its own engine of database where we maintain this list of vulnerabilities based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework and the CV scores, that's all built in there. So we have the scan engine already built with the AppScan. So we look from that local database, compare those, and then list it out down here.
Regarding the database, if you got a local database, how about can you make like custom schemas or something to get your own validation of vulnerability checks?
So this is mapped within the tool itself. It cannot be moved out of it. So yeah, so as part of your deployment of the tool, it does that. Any other questions? No? So
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you so much. So, yeah, as Sunil has had demonstrated, when it comes to application security, right, we don't want to be leaving it to the last minute because that's just a disaster. We have, 1,000 vulnerabilities that we found in our application when we did our pen testing, and then we've got to go back all the way to the early development life, so the early dev phase, to fix all those issues. You guys can get started now using CodeSweep. It's free, it's easy, it plugs into every IDE, and you can start scanning your code, getting that spell check, making sure that not getting hassled by the security guys down as they come back to you and say, hey, we found all these issues, guys, make sure you fix them. And then it's like, wow, this is too much. So going back to the presentation. Just to wrap it up. So we saw CodeSweep and action, and that's the end. So what we have as well, if you come by our stand, we're offering a prize draw for AirPods if you register. As well, if you take a shirt from us, put a photo on social media, you get double entry. And then as well, I'll put a QR code there to get started. You guys can scan, and it takes you straight to the website to get you started with CodeSweep. Thank you very much.